G'day Badlers and welcome to the G'day Badlers podcast where we chat all things Pokemon Go PvP in Oceania, episode 45. Now I'm your co-host Debbie Pebble, joined by the recently crowned second place in Johannesburg special event, PvP Steve. Hi,
Thank you.
Steve.
Yes. I'm here. The finalist himself from Johannesburg. It was a tough fight, but I've made it back.
You have. And, usually in this podcast, we interview, I suppose, the battlers in Oceania that have, done really well. Top cut in this case. So it seems fitting to have you on, but also, look, hey, Johannesburg, let's get started.
Yeah, I sort of mentioned this to Debbie as we were sort of getting started. You know, we were going to record today, and we got on, and Debbie was sort of talking about it. Like I posted all of the tournaments because there have been a lot of tournaments. We literally recorded 2 weeks ago, but there has been so much since all over Asia, all over NAEU, and I guess now South Africa and Latin America actually as well. So like it's literally everywhere. And so then Debbie was sort of talking more about it from the interview point of view. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess like, if any other Aussie went over and came second, I guess we would bring them on. So I guess, I guess that's a place we can start and we can, sort of talk all of the other tournaments at the end.
So Steve, tell us about your PvP history. Where did it start for you?
No. We don't have to go
Where does your username come from?
Well, I mean, well, like for so many, like in my head, I was like, oh, there's not that much to it. And then I went, oh wait, no, there actually is a lot to it. But there's a whole other YouTube video for that, I guess. So
just go onto Steve's YouTube channel. There's my plug. There you go. You got one.
Yep. Okay, we've got that out of the way. Brilliant. Well, actually, that's not going to be the last one. I already know. But
no, you know this.
No. Yeah. But we'll live. But hey, it is what it is. We'll get there in the end, maybe.
Yeah. So I think we need to rewind back, not like Johannesburg itself, but maybe 2 weeks before, perhaps a month before, when it kind of popped up.
Yeah. So I don't remember what the stream was. Maybe you might remember better than I do. I just remember that I was live.
Yeah.
And it was probably just a classic GBL stream. Maybe.
I'm pretty sure it was a GBL stream that perhaps Spring Cup or something along those lines.
That could be right.
That it kind of came up in conversation and in chat of different regionals because fortunately and unfortunately, depending how you want to frame it, is that you won't be able to compete in most of the Oceania regionals because fingers crossed that there is a stream happening. So it's like Perth, there was a stream. Brisbane, there's a stream. So Melbourne, we have no idea, but like it's just the case of going, well, the likelihood of you competing, there's a percentage of you not competing. So for you to get championship points or to even qualify for Worlds, it requires you to go elsewhere.
Yeah, which, I do actually like competing. Like, I know it's not something that I've ever taken super seriously. Like, I think, I did take it seriously when I went to Gdansk, Buenos Aires, LAIC. I did take it seriously for that one. But for in the past, like, when I've run Wildmer in Sydney or Buzzwole at Brisbane 2024, 2024, I never went in with serious intent to actually perform well. And it was until those last tournaments at the end of last year that I was like, okay, I want to give it a crack. And so sort of looking at that, it was like, I do actually enjoy the competing part of it as well, even outside of wanting to do well. I like it. It's, it's a game that I've been playing for 6 years now. And so I sort of enjoy that aspect of it. And so with hopefully we'll see no ability to actually play in Australia in these regional tournaments, my eyes have certainly been wandering sort of outward as far as how to actually play. And it got brought up in the chat. I don't think I was the one that brought it up. I want to say it might have been like Cola who sort of mentioned the fact that there was the Johannesburg Special Championship around that sort of back end of April, probably 3-4 weeks later than maybe call it 4 weeks away from when we were talking about it. And it's like, there's currently at the time there might have been no one registered at the time, actually, now that I think about it. And so it's like, if you just fly over there, then maybe you've actually got a really easy chance to qualify. You've put your name in history, get that world championship invite becoming first. And we were sort of joking about it, but I was, it's sort of, and I wasn't taking it seriously, but in the back of my mind, I was like, that would be pretty funny. That would be a pretty good bit to just, rock up to this probably really small tournament and, just give it a crack. And like in my mind, it was sort of no, I very much assumed that there would be top players flying in. So I was, and I
Mm.
talked to you about this. I really
Yes.
assumed that we'd see people like, Arceus Aurelius or like,
Yes.
mostly Europeans because
Mhm.
geographically that's just closer than NA. But I was
Yep.
really expecting people like top players to fly down to get this easy qualification.
Mm-mm.
Because in my head, this was very similar to the Puerto Rico special championship we saw in
Mm.
2024. In
Yep.
2024, we saw with Puerto Rico, they had a special championship. There were literally only 5 people there.
Mhm.
And so, and the Taurian who won the tournament got a
Mhm.
world's qualification. And
Yes.
to be honest with you, at the time, I was like, okay, the Taurian isn't serious. These days, he's like, top 10 on the US championship leaderboard. He's
Yeah.
serious deal. But,
Yeah, yeah.
he got a very easy invitation to the
Mhm.
world
Mhm.
championships. And so, what we saw in the 2025 Puerto Rico Special Championship is way more top battlers went there. It was like,
Mhm.
instead of 5 people, it was 20 something. And it was all of your like, out of pocket, I
Yes.
think he won. Um,
Mm.
I'm pretty sure he won the whole thing. And so, it was these top battlers realized there was a really ripe opportunity there and they all flew
Yeah.
in.
Yep.
And so I thought that the same thing would happen in South Africa. But in
Mhm.
my head, I was like, look, I could go there even if it's all stacked, if there's only like 8 people or something, I still
Mhm.
walk away with saying like, "Hey, top 8 in
Yeah.
Johannesburg, baby." And so I thought it would be really goofy to give it a crack. And
Mhm.
so so maybe it was about 2 weeks beforehand, 2.5 weeks beforehand.
Mhm.
I looked at the thingo. There was only one person registered, and it
Yep.
was Pokey Moneymaker, who
Yep.
people might actually remember from Perth
Mhm.
2024 or the 2025 season, but in
Yes.
December of 2024,
Mhm.
where he ended up coming third in the Perth
Mhm.
regional tournament. And so I was like, well, it's only 2 weeks away. There's not that much time for people to rego. Maybe, top two even
Yeah.
is that on the cards? And so I booked my trip. I regoed, I booked my flights, booked my hotel. I even
Mhm.
messaged the organizers on Facebook being like, if there's only 2 people, does this happen?
Mhm.
And they said yes at the time, although looking back, it actually sounds like the answer is maybe no. But like my worries had been qualmed at that point.
Yeah.
So maybe erroneously, but hey, we went all the same.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
guess. But, yeah.
Well, I suppose like you needed to be there so then the others also could get points and other things as well. So the fact that that it was 4 players, the Dracoviz infographic looks great. It's very easy to read
Yeah.
to look at the team sheets. And yeah, like you mentioned, and 2 weeks beforehand, I got a DM from yourself, which was just like, "Hey, I'm looking at these tickets."
Yeah. It was very much along the lines of, I think I'm going to make a really dumb financial decision,
Mm-mm.
but it's kind of funny. And
Yeah.
you were pretty much like, yep, sounds about right.
Yep.
That's, yep.
Well,
So,
I thought my thought process was, as someone that has also attended a small tournament, and, has may
top
have
four in Perth, eh?
in a location where most people be like, oh yeah, it should be an easy ride to get points in Perth. I was all for the cheese levels. So it's like, oh, he
Oh,
could
yeah.
get, come home with a medal or trophy or whatever, while you're over there. So, and you've been to South Africa before, so it wasn't something that was like new, and a less likelihood of your phone being stolen. So I was just like, oh yeah, like when I was weighing up those factors, I was like, yeah, okay, this should be fine.
Yeah, I do go to South Africa for work every now and then, so it wasn't a completely insane trip in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-mm.
I did play it a lot more safe, sort of post Brazil. I was definitely I was Ubering door to door. I was
Oh,
like
we have
I
learned that
wasn't
lesson, I see.
I wasn't going out on big crazy walks, which I have in South Africa in the past.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, I just didn't this time. I just played it super safe, and so I was kind of like, yeah, in the like until the week of the tournament, there
Mm-hmm.
was still only one person registered.
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, the registration process was a little funky in that it's sort
Mm.
of 2 stages. You pay and then you tell them, like, hey, I paid. And then you get a code to proper register.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the week leading up to it, 2 other people did register. It
Mm-hmm.
was Alan, who
Mm-hmm.
his in game name is Alan.
Mhm.
Lots of people, assume that he's from Niantic because, he managed to land that name, but he's not. He just landed Alan.
Alan
And
from
the other
Niantic,
guy is
yes.
Mike. Yeah, Alan from Niantic. And then the other guy was Mike Chen, who was actually traveling with Alan. They sort of
Mhm.
buddied in,
Mhm.
both flying in from California.
Mhm.
And Mike Chen isn't like, I feel like he's sort of under the radar in a lot of senses. But if you look at the championship point leaderboard, I looked at it just this last week.
Mhm.
He's 11th
Yeah.
on the North American championship point leaderboard. He's got over 1,000 championship points. Like, he's a legitimate like factor. He was like,
Yeah.
I think you'd probably call him the favorite
Mm.
going into this tournament. And you might go like, wait, but what about Poke Moneymaker? But
Yeah.
the truth is, Poke Moneymaker didn't show. like, we were, the three of us sort of went into this tournament going like, okay, like Poke Moneymaker is the favorite. He's the guy to watch out for.
Yeah.
But then as we were sitting there, I opened up Discord, and in the Oceania Discord,
Mm.
Choose, who came
Mm.
second in Brisbane, another
Yes.
Japanese player, he sort of mentioned like, hey, I talked to Poke Moneymaker yesterday. He said he wasn't planning on coming. And so we were sitting there like, oh, oh, snap. What does that mean for us? And so we were thinking it through, and then I was like, oh, this could be bad. Because again, I guess for context, in some sense, there's lots of people have been saying that if there's not 4 people, the tournament wouldn't run.
Mm.
This isn't something that any of us were aware of, to be honest with you. Like, this isn't something that remotely went through our heads. Maybe it was an uneducated gambit. um, but as we were
Yes.
sitting there, we were going like, oh, this is kind of bad for us, because when there's 4 people, and this
Mm.
is something that no one ever thinks about because you don't see tournaments of this size. But there's kickers for like, oh, you need
Yes.
65 players for, the top 32 to get
2.
points, yada,
Yes.
yada, 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 yada.
Yes. Yes.
There's kickers all the way up to second place. If
Yes.
for second
Correct.
place to get points, there needs to be 4 people in the tournament. And
Correct.
so if we go from 4 to 3, all of a
It's
sudden,
pointless.
one person gets the win, gets the world's invite, and the other 2 go home empty-handed. And so we were
Mm-mm.
like, heck, can we like recruit someone to like, be the 4th player to,
Mm-mm.
make it so that we hit the, second place, 2 people walk away happy, I guess. Second place gets a bunch of championship points. But it turns out we didn't need to,
Mm.
because secretly, and this, he didn't show up on the rego list. I'm not really sure
Yeah.
why, but
Mhm.
a trainer by the name of Detective August had actually
Mhm.
registered for the tournament. Now, he was
Yeah.
the dad of some VG players
Mhm.
who might. I mentioned this, I mentioned this elsewhere,
Mhm.
but he's the dad of some of Lou the Pikachu's students.
Yes.
And not only students, as in like, at school, like,
Mhm.
they're
Mhm.
literal students, but Lou the Pikachu, if you haven't watched the Road to Worlds documentary or docu-series, which you
Mhm.
absolutely should, it's brilliant, on the Pokemon channel, the kids and him actually show up in the series. The daughter especially shows Annabelle sort of has
Mhm.
like a not prominent role, but a very real role in the docu series. And I was like, hey, it's her. She's from the thing. Lou the Pikachu messaged me as I was sitting down to play the tournament, and she was like, good luck. And I was like, oh, this is weird. Lou the Pikachu, like, we don't have a lot of messages between each other. And she
Mm-mm.
was like, oh, like my August is there. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So, and she ended up winning per event, by the way. She crushed it.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, so we had 4, and so we were like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. We've 2 of us are going to walk away happy. To be honest with you, like, I was sort of saying, even if I walk away and I just get to say I was top 4 in Johannesburg, it's not the end of the world.
No.
That's still updating the Twitter banners being updated.
True. True. And I was laughing before because when you were mentioning about like the kickers, I remember reading that when the new parameters came out for locals or like tournaments and regionals of where the kickers lie, and I looked at the top 2 one and I laughed at it at the time because I'm like, this will never happen. What tournament will only have 2 people? This is so silly. And then when like Johannesburg was happening, I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. Turns out they set those things for a reason.
Yeah, yeah. I was just like, wow, okay, all right. Like, so yeah, so very, very fortunate to have the 4th player there.
Yep. Shout out August. We needed you.
Mhm.
And we,
Mhm.
we made that very clear at the time. We were like, oh my gosh, we're so happy you're here. This is and like I don't know if this is spoilers or not. I mean, the tournament's happened, but he actually
Mm.
played like pretty well for like
Mm.
someone that, like, this isn't their bread and butter. His son actually built him, well, first he built him a team that had shadows in it, but
Mhm.
he doesn't have access to shadows, which
Right.
again, that's sort of a problem with people trying to get into PvP in the
Yes.
accessibility of the game, in that he just couldn't run the team. So it's like, okay.
No.
And so his son sort of had a second crack at building another team without shadows. And so this is the team that he built. And he built a completely legitimate team. Like,
Yeah.
if anyone, you could see this team on like, the official broadcast. It's a
Yeah.
completely legitimate and kind of scary team. Like, it didn't
Yeah.
have fatal flaws or anything. It was a good team.
Well, it just goes to show, like, I think a lot of things in the Pokemon realm can be transferred to other games. Like, we've just seen Sejin Park obviously qualify for Worlds, so it's just kind of like, not everyone's cracked as he is, but my point is that a lot of, I suppose, knowledge can be transferred.
Yeah. That was going through my head as we were playing. It's like, he's got such good grasp of like the Pokemon typings and like type
Mm-mm.
advantages and stuff, which is like, well, obviously, like he's
Yeah.
been around VG for so long that like
Hmm.
he should have this I guess understanding. And so it is
Yeah.
just really clear that like, he, and not that he played perfectly, but like he made a few
Mm-mm.
mistakes, but he was playing a lot better than, to be honest with you, I think any of the other three of us were expecting. I think that if
Mm-mm.
we're being completely honest, the other three of us were like, okay, we've got an easy win in the bag at least. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
once I was playing him, I was like, oh heck, this is proper. And like I sort of lost a game to him, but it was like it was a review. It was rematched
Mm. Yep.
because my switch button just didn't work.
Yep.
But like
The game we're playing.
even like with my switch button not working, even
Mm.
then, like he was able to get the win, which is like
Mm-mm.
it's full credit to him.
Yep.
It was really well played, I think. But
Yeah.
it's cool. It's cool for sure.
Very cool. So you have your three players. You run not quite a double elimination.
Yeah, so we were all like, we were sort of speculating. So when I got there well early,
Mm.
and there were two guys were there, and I sort of walked past them, and I was like, and then I was like, hey, you guys here for VG? And they were like, oh no, we go. And I was like, oh, it's Alan and Mike Chen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So we sit down and we're just chatting we probably chat for over an hour and a half before the tournament actually kicks off. Like
Yeah.
we're just sort of hanging out,
Yep.
and we're sort of talking like, we don't really know how this tournament is going to run. Like, I was
Mm-mm.
very much assuming that it was going to be double elim the entire
Mm-hmm.
time, to be honest with you. Like, that was like the logic in my head. So I was sort of mathing out like, oh, what does it look like if it's 4 players? What does it look like if it's 5 players? I was thinking
Mm-mm.
about championship point and seeding and like yada yada yada.
Yeah.
I was like running all the calcs. And then so they were sort of suggesting like, oh, well, like maybe it's like Swiss or like something.
Mm.
And I was like, huh, I mean, maybe, but it wasn't something I was thinking about. And so we asked the judges, we were like, hey, how is this tournament going to work? And they were like,
Mm.
um, we don't know yet. And I was like, oh, okay, fair play. I guess let us know when you know.
Mm.
And so in the end, it ended up being Swiss,
Mm.
which with a slightly higher player count, even with like 5 players, anyone that's played locals with like, a non-perfect amount of players in terms of like not 4 or 8 or
Yeah.
like a non-perfect amount
Yep.
knows how dangerous Swiss can be. Not only in terms of like your luck in facing opponents in like,
Mm-mm.
and again, not I don't want to rag on Detective August because again he played
Mm-mm.
legitimately well,
Mm-mm.
but like obviously he's a level below the other 3 of us that were there and sort of
Mm-mm.
play competitive Pokemon Go a lot more, right?
Yes. Yes.
But like it was sort of like, oh well, one person could get matched up against like the 2 quote unquote better guys, and then one
Uh.
guy gets August and one of the other 2, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
that you're sort of really getting ham-fisted a little bit by the opponent luck. That's
Mm-hmm.
one part of it. But then when there's like
Mm.
ties and stuff, it's like, oh, you can really get like messed over with like tiebreakers and stuff. And like,
You could.
if you're straight evens, it's just dice roll. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was legitimately sort of saying like, hey, I said to the judges, like, there's a legitimate chance with 4 people that you can have a 3-way tie, even on
Mm-hmm.
tiebreakers.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just like, like,
Yeah.
so I didn't know if that was going to decide the world champion invite. I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little worried about it, to be honest with you, but I was like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
look, we'll play it out. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
But it was a 3-round Swiss, which essentially in our case just meant it was round robin, which in
Yep.
my view was like the best case scenario. It's the most fair
Mm-mm.
in that,
Mm-hmm.
whoever what ended up happening was, Alan won the tournament. I came
Mhm.
second, as we said at the start. And it was very clean in terms of Alan beat everyone. I beat everyone except Alan, and Mike Chen,
Mhm.
beat Detective August. And so it was like very
Mhm.
clear delineation. The player that beat everyone won. And so
Yeah.
I guess it was lucky that that's how the
Mm.
tournament worked out. But like, it could have been a little bit more rubbish. But
I
glad it
think
didn't.
luck has a strong factor in Johannesburg. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
Like getting the right amount of players, just like everything just seemed to be the stars aligned.
yeah, that would be one way to put it for sure.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
hey, it all worked out in the end. So
Mhm.
like, and like the organizers were great as well. Like
Mhm.
when I sort of put my hand up for the review, they were like, they're obviously not Pokemon Go guys. They don't really know
Mm.
how it works and whatnot. So they were
Yeah.
very like particular in like, okay, let me just check the rule book. Let me make sure this is how it's supposed to go.
Mm-mm.
And I was very clear. Like it's a very obvious video in the
Yeah.
sense of like I've got the recording with taps turned on, and you can see
Mhm.
me like we're tapping the fast moves, and then we're going over and tapping the swap button, and only the swap button for ages, and
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
not happening. So like it
Mhm.
was very
Mhm.
clear cut. I didn't
Mhm.
have to go like, okay, so a shadow claw is 2 turns, right? And so
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't complicated.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it was a little easier, and it went the right way and whatnot.
Mhm.
But it it just ended up okay in the end, I
Mhm.
think. So
Yeah. Yeah. Was when you guys before the tournament started, where were you guys in this house of of tournament?
yeah. I think the TCG Twitter put a lot of flack on this tournament because
Mhm.
so day one, I guess I should specify. So Saturday they only
Mhm.
played TCG.
Mhm.
Sunday they played TCG finals and
Mhm.
then Go and VG.
Mhm.
And so for the TCG guys, the first day they played in, I'm not sure what the venue was, but I guess it was like sort of a proper venue, I
Mhm.
suppose. And because it was a lot more players, as you'd imagine, there
Mhm.
always is for
Mhm.
TCG. Excuse me. And then for day two, all of
Mhm.
us sort of showed up at this residential property that is sort of doubles as like a TCG store. So like you walk in the front door and you can sort of see the kitchen out the back, and there's tables out the front. There's like a Coke fridge and whatnot, out the front and whatnot. And so this is something we were looking at when we were googling the venue ourselves, right? It was like,
Mhm.
oh, this is just someone's house. That's kind of crazy.
Mhm.
But I was talking to the judges, and they were sort of saying that in South Africa, that's totally normal because like business land expenses are so high and so
Mhm.
out of reach for pretty much most, except their super wealthy businesses, that most people like run businesses out of their homes. So that was actually the norm in South
Mhm.
Africa, and I was like, oh, that actually not only does it make sense, but I think if it was more acceptable in like our culture over here,
Mhm.
people could save a lot of money if
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool.
Mhm.
So yeah, I know that TCG was really ragging over it quite a bit, but like
Mhm.
on the ground, I was like, no, this makes sense. It's cool. They
Mhm.
had the space, like they weren't
Mhm.
they had room for all of the TCG, all of VG. They
Mhm.
moved like Pokemon Go. We were actually playing in like the shed, but it wasn't just like oh we were in some like dingy thing. It was like
Mm.
properly built. Like there were tables there and like
Mm. Mm.
whiteboard and whatever else. They also were running a like I don't know what game it was. It might have been like a Magic the Gathering TCG local or something.
Mhm.
Was also happening in the shed. We were only 4 people, so we weren't taking a lot of room. But
One trestle table.
they yeah. But they even had like, they had a specific Wi-Fi for VG. They had a specific Wi-Fi for Pokemon Go. So
Mm.
it was like well set up
Mm.
for something that was, quote unquote in someone's house.
Yeah.
Although admittedly the bit that I found really funny and I couldn't get over it was the fact that like right outside of the shed was the pool. Like, so, if you've seen on Twitter the photo of, our sort of when I was sort of like, hey, came, second in Johannesburg, yada, yada, yada.
Mm.
And the photo of the 4 of us, I was like, let's stand at the pool. And there were these little steps so we could get first place up on the top step, me on the second step, and then third and fourth at the bottom. It was very funny to me. It was pretty comical, but it was a cool spot.
I thought that it would be like, all right, whoever wins goes in the pool.
Well, I did. I think someone suggested like, oh, we could get the shot in the pool, but we didn't go that far. We had a bunch of Pokemon cards that we won and whatever else. So it was like, fair enough, fair enough. But yeah, it was a pretty cool tournament. I think like again, because we had to play everyone, which again I think is the most fair. Like any possible tournament format, whether it's Swiss or double elim or single elim, like round robin is objectively, I would argue, the most fair format for any tournament, because you literally play everyone, and whoever, if you beat the majority of opponents, then you've done well, right? And so I really liked that. And then, round one, I ended up having to face Alan. And so we didn't know how this tournament was going to unfold. He played, I guess I should actually mention the team, I guess, as well. In that, before, in the run up to the tournament, I was keeping this private, right? Like I wasn't telling people that I was attending this tournament, mostly
No one knew.
No. Well, I guess two reasons. The first was because I was like, well, I don't want to flag it up in, like, I don't want to mention it to Arceus Aurelius, and then he goes like, oh yeah, I'll attend. And I was like, heck. But also because I didn't want, I thought it would be the funniest outcome to just announce it on Twitter, being like, hey, I'm here. So I thought that was really funny, and I couldn't let it up. So I was like, yeah, we're not mentioning this publicly anywhere. Even the day before, when it was literally, registration was closed, and it wasn't a risk that anyone would come, I was firm on no, I'm not mentioning this until the last minute when I'm there to compete, because that, again, it is the funniest outcome. So I'm running full steam ahead. As you well know, the I guess number one motivating factor on my end tends to be, is it funny? And so I went pretty hard on that one, on this front, I guess. So with that in mind, I was keeping it pretty close to my chest. But a few days before the tournament, well, in the weeks leading up, I was trying to practice. I was trying to build a team for the tournament, and I just wasn't finding anything that worked. This was the first weekend that Tinkerton was eligible in the championship series, so it was really untested. We hadn't been able to see anyone running it at all in the lead up. So I was kind of like, oh, I don't know what teams look like. And so I sort of, I tried a lot of stuff, and some stuff worked okay, but I couldn't get big success with anything, to be honest with you. So I messaged Mikey Morgs, and I was like, because I saw he was playing in, I think the tournament is in one of these inadequates practice tournaments as well. And I was like, hey, Mikey, you got the sauce? You got what's going on? And so we jumped on a call. I told him I was going to Johannesburg, and he was like, yep, fair enough. But we sort of built it, he pulled up PvPoke Team Builder. We sort of ran through building a team, using some lines of Pokemon that was working well for him. And I was like, awesome. And he gave me some really good advice as well, which I really appreciated. He was just giving up his time, and I was like, heck yeah, man, this is this team feels good. It looks all right. I've got all the pieces. And so I did a little bit of practice with it. I ran into another practice tournament, and it didn't do too well. And so the team just wasn't really meshing for me personally. So I was like, okay, this isn't working too well. But while I was playing in this practice tournament with Mikey Morgus' team, a message pops up in the Inadequate server sort of tournament discussion chat. And it's like, yo, a Pokemon Go caster Steve playing in the tournament. And this message was from none other than Ashton Ash, the second place, just recently at the Merida Regional Championships, top 3 at LAIC, top 2 at NAIC 2024, one of the top battlers of the game at the moment. And I was like, all right, time to DM slide. So I hit up Ash and Nash, and I went, hey man, so here's the skinny. And so, I laid all my cards out on the table. I was like, hey, I'm going to Johannesburg. And he was like, brother, no one knows this is on. This is going to be crazy. And so he sort of, thought it through with me. He was like, look, you could cheese it. And that's definitely something I was thinking of. I was thinking of everything. I was like, oh, you could run Bastiodon, Wigglytuff, and just try and RPS your way through because it's so few people. All of the strats we were thinking of. And he was like, okay. He sent me a few example teams and was like, what do you think of these? And I was like, I don't really like Clodsire at the moment in this meta. I don't like this. I'm not sure about this. Maybe. And he was like, okay, understood. And he was like, let me cook. And the man, he disappeared for a little bit, and then he cooked and he cooked. I say a little bit. It was barely any time at all. And he was just spending his, again, he was giving up his time just for my
Mm.
benefit, which the same for Mikey Morgs. I just really appreciated that in the sense of
Mm.
like you don't need to be spending your time doing this. Like this is just you know out of the goodness of their heart, which
Mm.
I really do value and I appreciate very much. Um, but he came back and he was like, okay, this is the team I got. And so it was Tinkerton, Claydol, Furret, Azumarill, Shadow Primeape, and he had Shadow for Alligator, but he'd also sort of suggested moving into regular for Alligator,
Mm.
which I completely agree with.
Mm.
In that, the logic sort of being that the current metagame is so built around charge attacks rather
Mm.
than fast attacks or like just big raw damage
Mm.
that by having a Feraligatr that can survive a little bit longer, that is a little bit harder to get rid of, you're able to just output a little bit more pressure onto your opponents. And I definitely found that was the case in practice. I was like very happy to have regular Feraligatr as opposed
Mm.
to Shadow, which
Mhm.
I had to build it new. It's an XXL as well, just because I thought that was a bit goofy. But yeah, it is the best like regular gator I had, but it was also an XXL, so I like that. I was, I-
I wish the Draco Viz one just made yours just a little bit bigger.
it would have been nice. It would have been nice. But so that was the squad. And
Mhm.
he gave me like a ton of advice on how to run it as well. Like he sent voice note after voice note with like, okay, here's how you run Primeape into like Jumpluff, into Claydol, and he
Mhm.
just gave me all of these scenarios. And
Mhm.
I was just sitting there like a sponge. I was just like, zoop, zoop, zoop. I'm taking it all in.
Mhm.
Um, and not it sort of did two things for me. The first is it arms me with a lot of knowledge, like ready to go. So I was
Mhm.
already feeling like I knew how to play Primeape,
Yep.
even before playing a single game
Mhm.
because I had to build my Shadow Primeape.
Yep.
Funnily enough, I actually built this Shadow Prime. Well, I caught this Shadow Primeape while I was with Ashton Nash in Buenos Aires while we were playing the
Oh.
Rage Fist Community Day.
Mhm.
So I didn't even mention that to him. I don't know if he realizes, but like that was the case. I didn't catch it. I guess I evolved it into
Yep.
Primeape during the com day.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it's kind of cool. At the time I met him, but
Mhm.
he gave me all of these tips on how to run it,
Mhm.
and then it also sort of told me like it sort of recontextualized how to approach a tournament in the sense of like, yeah, I really do want to have a strategy into every Pokemon. Like, I want to be aware of the matchups. I want to be aware of, and it seems so obvious, like on a
Mm.
surface level, but it's just not something that I've ever sort of like gone through. And the term study came up a
Mm.
lot. And I've never really studied for a tournament so much before, but this is
Mm.
the first time that it really was like, oh, I am studying. Like I had sheets and sheets of like, I was writing out how I would play certain matchups. Like I don't think
Mhm.
I have it here with me. But
Yeah.
it was like, okay, if I'm the Furret and I'm up against this in the lead matchup, I'll
Mhm.
throw this. And then
Mhm.
if they do this, I'll do this. But otherwise, I'll do this. And so I was
Mhm.
really like sort of, preparing for all of these different scenarios.
Mm.
And it was like, oh, this is the most confident I've ever felt with a
Yeah.
team going into a tournament ever. I
Mhm.
was like, I know what I'm going to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
I feel good. Um, and so, like, mad credit to Ash and Ash for really sort of not only giving the kick in the pants of like how to do it, but also just like arming me with so many tools that, like, let's be clear, I was messaging him like this was like 48 hours before the tournament or something that he gave me the teams. Like, I say I was doing study and study and study, and I was feeling confident, but like,
Mhm.
I didn't have a lot of time, and 14 hours of that was going to be on a plane. so,
That's some
so
good
like, or
cramming.
15 hours. Yeah, it was a cramming. It was absolutely a
Mm.
cramming exercise, but I don't know. I guess I felt good in it.
Mm.
And I didn't study as much as I wanted to. I've said this elsewhere as well, but like I felt like I really studied hard on Primeape and Feraligatr. My study was a little weaker on Furret, a little weaker on Claydol and Tinkerton, and to be honest,
Mhm.
almost non-existent on Azumarill. Like I was sort of just
Mhm.
relying on core
Old
knowledge
knowledge.
for how to
Yep.
play Azu. But like I at least built up a little bit of study on the others
Mm.
with the limited time I sort of had available. But I really did focus on Primeape because in Ash and Ash's words, I think he was like, Primeape is the Pokemon to rely upon. And I wrote that in my little notebook. I was like, it's the guy to rely on. And so,
Mhm.
on the 15-hour flight, every now and then, every few hours, I'd sort of read through the book, read through
Mhm.
all of my notes, and just, okay, put it away,
Yep.
pull it back out, read through all of the notes. Okay, put it away.
Yep.
So yeah, I felt good going into the tournament. I think
Mhm.
even and I studied like Pokemon Maker's battles as well. I was like, if he's going to be there, what sort
Yep.
of strategies does he like to use? So I
Mhm.
was watching
Mhm.
stuff back, and so I felt pretty good going in. And so rocking up against like Alan round one, I was like, okay, I think he's going to do this. He ran ABA weak to Claydol, and I didn't bring Claydol game one, so he beat me with relative ease. It wasn't actually, maybe that's a bad characterization, to be honest with you. But he beat me game one. Game two, I adjusted. I brought Claydol. Even though he ran ABA weak to Claydol again, and my Claydol didn't even see either of the Pokemon it was strong into. It was like, instead of Tinkaton or Drapion, my Claydol was locked into as a Azumarill. But I was able to play it well enough that I still won the game.
Yep.
And then game three, it was a little contentious. It was like, he beat me at the time, and I was like, fair enough. It was close. One Shadow Claw away from victory, I guess. And then, as you're well aware, a few days. When did I upload that video? It was in the last week. I sort of I was watching back the footage, and I'd watched it back a few times to be like, oh, how could I improve? And when I watched back that footage, I sort of skipped through the lead matchup because I was like, yeah, like Primeape, I lose the one shield to Azumarill.
Yeah.
Boop, gone. And then I watched the rest. But as I sort of watched it back properly, as I was about to make the YouTube video, I was like, oh, heck, I had one turn lag at the start, and they get an extra bubble, and they literally win the game by one bubble. And I was like, oh gosh. It's like, wait, did I lose to lag? And I didn't even like bring it up. Because and it's weird to describe, but at the time, like, I noticed it as I was playing the game, but I was so focused on the game for the next 3 minutes that I completely forgot. Like, at the end of the game, I did not remember that there was any lag in the game. And so for probably like, a few hours, I was like, oh, I lost to lag. This is crazy. How am I going to make this YouTube video? Like, usually I like to be a bit more positive, and I'm not feeling positive right now. Like, this is not good. Then so I sent it to a few judges, and they were like, look, it really, to us, it sort of looks like if they survive, it depends if they would survive one more Shadow Claw. It's close, but I think they survive. Some judges said like, oh, you probably win that. And then I sort of sent like more evidence. I was like, here's some like high quality screenshots. Here's yada, yada, yada. And they were like, okay, I can see why some would say that that's a no rematch. Is the sort of scenario that like a judge on the floor would probably like just give it a rematch because it's easier, and it's like, it's close, so we'll give it to you. But I think if you sort of like look at it properly, that it shouldn't have been a rematch, in the sense that like it didn't. I would have needed to get 2 Shadow Claws instead of 1. And so in addition to the one that I guess the one bit of lag on the bubble, turns out I also overtapped in the lead matchup once. So if both of those things didn't happen, if it didn't lag and I didn't overtap, then I win the game. But then obviously, like, if it was just lag that was the difference, then we play another game. Maybe he wins, maybe I win. I don't know. But as is, like, I'm running off with the assumption that like, I lost to the overtap. And he actually, I should mention as well that it looks like he sent me his footage. It looks like I get a free karate chop in as well. So maybe it comes back to the one bubble. Maybe it comes back to just the lag plus overtap. And so end of the day, for my own sanity, I need to believe that it wasn't lag. And people are messaging me as well saying like, bro, it was totally lag, but I can't believe it. That's my mental needs me to go like, no. We just needed to, we goofed it because we overtapped. And so it's like, fair enough. Because otherwise I think I did it well.
Yeah, I mean, I watched your YouTube video and had a look, and I kind of like paused it, zoomed in onto the health bar, and I was like, yeah, I really do think it would have taken 2. It would have been very close, but I think it would have taken 2. And to be fair, if I was a judge on the floor that day, I would have rematched it because it would have been too close to call.
Exactly.
So it's just kind of like, oh well, like, yeah. However,
but
if I had the time and had like, a brain's trust to, 5 people to have a look at it and have like 2 days to analyze it, then I think the conclusion is correct.
Yeah, which again, like, I prefer that outcome in the sense of like, even like, and people were telling me that on Twitter as well. Be like, bro, like on the floor, a judge would have given this a rematch, and I was sort of saying like, I 100% agree, but I don't want to cheese a rematch. Like, if it was a rematch, I want it to actually be correct that lag is what flips this game. So I'm sort of glad that I didn't bring it up, because if I brought it up, to be honest with you, like I probably do get a rematch. at the time.
Yeah.
I would prefer that it went well. Like
Yeah.
let me put it this way. I would much prefer to come home and be like, heck, I should have rematched that, rather than come home and be like, oh, heck, I shouldn't have rematched that. I stole this win.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
that would be like, that would be so much worse for my mental, at least. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. That's
obviously, it's
very
not the
true.
result I wanted. Like, I would have, well, I mean, I would have loved to win. I wasn't really
Yes.
going in planning to win,
Yes.
to be fair. I was sort of like, hey, best I can do is second, man.
Well,
um,
we thought that Poker Moneymaker was going to be there, so you just kind of like,
yeah.
third in Perth, and also, a very, very highly skilled and strong battler in Japan. It's just like, oh, okay, he's definitely like the favorite. And to turn up and be like, oh, he's not here. It's just you
Yeah.
chops.
And look, then I beat Detective August. I beat Mike Chen,
Mhm.
which is an accomplishment in
It
itself, by the
is.
way. Again,
It
he's a
is.
very, very strong battler.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was very happy to take second. And,
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
because there were four of us, I got 325 championship points, which was like,
Gosh.
holy, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is a
So
lot of points.
yeah, out of nowhere, all of a sudden I was 14th on the Oceanic leaderboard, which is like, what the
Mm-hmm.
heck?
Mm-hmm.
This seems a bit wacky, but hey, pretty
Yeah.
funny all the same. And like a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of card packs I've got upstairs as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Because I
all in
think I
all,
was looking at the leaderboard, and I think you're the second Oceania player to get 325 points in a regional. Because like obviously
yeah, I guess that's
Perth
right.
we had um we would have
Jai.
had Jai, and then in
Yep.
Brisbane we had Choose come second. So therefore, no one in Oceania got the 325 points, and it doesn't go to Japan anyway because they'd have different qualifiers.
Hmm.
So when I was looking at across, I was like, "Hey, that's pretty cool."
Yeah, I know. Was it Lalu Loha that mentioned like, "Hey, is Steve the first Aussie to like grab a finalist spot like overseas?" It's like, hey, I think you'll actually find it's the first person to hit top four, even. So pretty funny on the whole. Like a
Hmm.
very worthwhile tournament. Even like again, very very happy to pick 325 championship points,
Yeah.
even though it wasn't necessarily the goal. Like I really wasn't looking. If I won, then I would absolutely take the qualification, but it
Of
wasn't
course.
something that I was going into the tournament for, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, second place looks a lot cooler on my Twitter banner than top four, so we'll take it.
Let's get rid of that top six with Welma.
And I know people were messaging me like, Tomahawk UK was like, "Good luck, man," and I was like, "We are second place brethren." um, yeah, it was all in good fun. And then like me, Alan, and Mike Chen went out and played Vanilla Community Day after, and we
Hmm.
hung out. We had dinner. It was a good time. I had
Good.
a lot of fun at the tournament.
Hmm.
Was very chill. Very happy to do well.
Hmm.
And like Ashton Ash has been messaging me as well, be
Mm.
like, great run, man, played well. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. I was like,
Mm.
so yeah, really like his team worked, man.
Yeah.
Prime Open for Alligator did numbers. It
Hmm. Hmm.
pretty good, to say the least. I know that I only had to face 3 people and I lost to one of them, but the team was pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially when we had no clue what Tinkerton was going to do.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I should have said day one of Sevilla was the
Mm.
day before.
Yes.
But I didn't get to watch much of it because
Hmm.
I, landed late on the Saturday and then
Mm.
Sunday was tournament day. So I only saw like cumulatively by the tournament start, like maybe less than an hour of
Mm.
Sevilla. So I didn't see much. I looked at
Hmm.
the teams and especially the teams making day two. And so, I
Hmm.
was making game plans, be like, okay, if I see this team, I do this. If I see this
Yeah.
team, I do this.
Mm.
But yeah, in the end, it went pretty well, I think. So I'm pretty happy with
Mm.
the showing.
Yeah. I remember you messaging going, "Oh, I'm glad like Prime App is not on the severe graphic." I
Yeah,
was
I
just
was
like,
like, I'm
okay.
so glad that isn't going to be the number one Pokemon that everyone's prepping for, or like
Mm-mm,
using,
mm-mm,
because there was another Primeape, but it was from Detective August, and he wasn't running
mm,
Shadow. So
mm-mm.
Alan and Mike Chen, no Primeape, no
Yeah.
Feraligatr. I was like, yes.
Mm-mm.
But hey,
Yeah.
I know this is sort of spoilers, but it sort of seems like Feraligatr is on a big rise as well. I've seen it showing up fair bit in the recent tournaments post Johannesburg as well. So hey, maybe that Ash and Ash guy's onto something.
Maybe just like you leading the charge, going, "Oh, Steve's running a for alligator."
Yeah, I will say no one is running the identical team. Well, no one in the top cut of this weekend's tournament is running the same team. I haven't looked any deeper than that, but
Yeah.
yeah, I
Mm-mm-mm.
think it's a good team.
Yeah.
Better in the hands
Well,
of someone better than me, but it's a good team, I think.
I mean, like, you came second place. You can't say that. Can't say
True,
that.
true, true. So so close to that championship title, it must be a good team.
Exactly. One shadow claw away it was.
Yeah, pretty cool though. So yeah,
Maybe
very
if it
glad
was
I went.
shadow. Maybe if it was shadow. We've got our shadow claw down. You've just
I
only
think
taken one.
that's actually what I asked. Like when we got to the end of the battle, I was like, "Man, do I win that if I had Shadow Gator?" And we were kind of like, maybe not." So it's like, oh, okay, it's chill. It's chill. I don't regret my team at
No.
all.
No.
It was a good bring, I think.
I think you went in confidently, did good study, learned how to, play your team really well, and it was a good environment. Like, it didn't
Yeah.
seem like, not that you were worried, but it was more the fact that it was just kind of like, okay, cool. Like, it's in a house in the shed next to a pool, putting your teams in your kitchen. Like, it was just
Yep.
very chill vibes.
Very chill vibes, which is the sort of vibes that I thrive in the most. So very happy to see it.
Yeah, yeah,
Rather than, don't put me in high stress situation, put me in the chill vibes.
yeah,
That's where
yeah.
we want to be.
You do play
So yeah.
best when it's very chill.
But
With a
yeah,
welder.
and also funny enough, the usage data was because for the 4 teams we had 12 unique Pokemon total, so it fit out perfectly on the usage graphic, which I thought was
Excellent.
very funny. Shout out to the unique for alligator. I guess it's the only unique one
Yes.
on my team.
There we go.
I think everyone actually had a unique water type. There was Alan had a Lapras, I had for alligator, Mike had Golisopod, and August had Swampert, which it's doing well this weekend. It was we thought it was kind of crazy at the time. I was like, oh dang, that's actually an awesome core breaker. And I've only seen about an hour of this weekend's broadcast, but
Yeah.
someone did well with Swampert, and they were like, yeah, Swampert's a good core breaker. And I was like, yeah. It's yeah.
Bring Swampy back.
Yeah, I think after Yetaruna did well with it in Brisbane, maybe it should have already been back. But
yeah. But now with Tinkerton meta, it's just it's even better.
Even better, yeah. That's for sure. But
yeah. So
yeah,
coming
yes.
home, 325 points, shoots you all the way up to 14th on the Oceania leaderboard. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah,
Yep.
that's right. Which is at the moment 11th qualifies. So
Yeah.
obviously, I'm hoping that I won't be competing in Melbourne, and that I'm hoping there's a broadcast.
Yeah.
But as we've said, sort of, I was kind of like, if there's no broadcast, not the end of the world. Maybe, hey, I just get an excuse to compete. Maybe we get enough points. Maybe this works out. But as is, there's a lot of going to be. Let's just assume that I'm not playing Melbourne, which is certainly my assumption. I haven't registered. There's a lot of points for the Oceanic region to pick up, so I wouldn't be putting any big bets on me getting the World's qualification at this point. But you never know. You never know. We'll see how it all unfolds, I guess. But,
let's hope for a stream, but also not devastated if it's not happening.
Yeah,
We're going to Melbourne anyway.
Yeah, let's put it this way: this is the stream that if it didn't happen, I would be the least crushed by. But yeah, we're hoping for a stream. So as much as the World's qualification would be cool, but end of the day, very happy I went to Johannesburg. Very cool tournament. And I very, very glad I went. Shout out Ash and Ash Mikey Walks. And also, I mentioned this on Twitter, but before I flew out, I sort of hit up Zoe 2 Dots and I was like, Zoe, I need Tinkerton. I don't have a Tinkerton that hits the thing. Can we do trades? She was like, all right, come over. And I went, great. So shout out to her.
Was it just her account or also Alan's as well?
Look, no one would ever break TOS, but she checked Alan's account and he didn't have any Tinkerton. So, not going to wake him up to trade nothing.
Was it super early in the morning?
Yeah, well, it was early morning. Like she was up, but Alan was still snoozing.
Ah,
So
okay. Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's fair
we
enough.
did. She didn't have a lot of Tinkertons, but we did enough. So
Mm-mm-mm.
yeah, grateful to her as well, and
Mm-mm.
grateful to everyone that showed a lot of support after the fact as well. Oceania was all wishing me luck, and I really appreciated that.
Mm-hmm.
I know that in some sense, like I know when I went, it's sort of like if I win, then it's just one extra Australian that qualifies for Worlds, I guess.
Mm.
So it's kind of like, yeah, it could have been cool, but
Yeah,
alas.
yeah.
I think the message that stuck with me the most was coming from longtime G'day Battlers listener, Wade, when he was like, the madman did it. And I was like, that is exactly what I was looking for. So shout out, Wade.
He's got your back. He knew.
Yeah. But yeah, that's Johannesburg. I guess is that everything? Is there anything we're missing or that,
No. Oh, there was no medals. There was no trophies. Unfortunately, it was just
yeah,
the
just the
just
cards
just the
and the
cards.
glory and all of the points.
Yeah.
Which I was look back in my mind. I knew on the website it didn't say there was medals and stuff, but I
Mm-mm.
was really like, oh, I would love like Latin American special events have these really cool trophies, and I was like, oh,
Mm-mm.
I really want one of those really cool trophies. But
Yeah.
nothing like that here. Which like I didn't deserve a trophy, but I would have liked a trophy.
You flew all the way there. You deserve
Yeah,
whatever they were gonna give you. But
that's
yeah,
called pay to win, baby. That's,
hey, look.
uh,
Sometimes this game is a bit about that.
that's very true. But look, I just want to compete, man. I don't get to compete
Yeah.
in my country. I'll just have to compete in other people's. that's that's
Yeah.
the price we pay, I guess. I know it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you save money by not having to pay rego fee for Melbourne. Well, I'm making up for it. That's, we're well making up for it.
Yeah. How much is the flight from Sydney to
No
Johannesburg
comment.
return?
No comment.
Yeah.
Let's assume it's the $40 rego fee that Melbourne
Yeah.
has.
With flexi flights, right?
Look, I did book. I put Flexi on this because I was like, what if this tournament gets cancelled, man? I was like, this could go so wrong. I could waste this.
Yep.
But
Just go to
yeah.
Johannesburg for 2 days of all places. Because we know you love the airport.
But don't get me started on the airport in Johannesburg. OR Tambo Airport is the worst airport I've ever been in. Let's leave it at that. And I've been there so many times, and every time it somehow gets worse.
Look, you're a very well-traveled person, and for you to say that, that's big.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other airport on planet Earth that I really have any big complaints over, but that one, I have much to say. But
Yeah.
well. Have you even been in other South African airports? They're fine. It's just that one. Bad.
Yeah. But hey, there's a lot of good out of Johannesburg. Just the airport's just not great.
Yep. So shout out Alan getting the big win, and
Mhm.
good to see Mike Chen, and especially shout out to Detective August for rounding out the
Yes.
4th place so that I could get
Mhm.
325 championship points. If it wasn't for
Yes.
August, I get nothing.
You would get 0.
Except the ability to say, "Hey guys, I came second,
Mhm.
yay!" Which again was really, in some sense, the original aim.
Have we checked? Have you updated your bio yet on Twitter?
Oh yeah, absolutely. What have
Oh.
I put? 2025 Johannesburg silver
I
medal
see.
emoji.
It is on there.
Yeah,
Oh, you removed Welma.
yeah. It's just such a clunk. There's so much text in that bio, but
Yeah, your
yeah,
username's quite
well.
long.
Yeah. If I didn't have to because I want people to, if you search for my username on Twitter, I want my
Mhm.
Twitter to actually come up. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
I get
Look,
that.
maybe one day I'll figure out how to clean it up a bit more. But anyway,
Mhm.
that's JBerg. So
Yeah.
yeah, cool tournament. But obviously that wasn't the only
Congrats.
tournament going on. Thank you.
It won't be the last time it's been mentioned.
No, absolutely not. I've said it time and time again. Like the fact that part of this was so that I could grab a top 2 Johannesburg or whatever else.
Mhm.
The number of times this is going to come up is insane. If you think you've heard about my top 6 with Walmer too many times, you just wait. You wait until this potential Melbourne broadcast. Like someone run a counter of how many times it gets brought up, even just not by
See.
me. I probably won't bring it up that much. That's a lie. I might bring it up a few times, but we'll see. It's pretty funny. So we'll see. We'll
Mhm,
see.
mhm.
But Yeah.
It
And,
will be
you know, with
cool.
that said, there were a lot of other tournaments in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to speed run
We
this.
Yeah, we definitely have to do a little bit of a speed run.
Hmm.
And part of it is because, you know, a lot of these tournaments happened pre-Tinkerton.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit less relevant in the sort of,
Hmm.
you know, team compositions and Pokemon that are good sense. But
Correct.
a lot did happen. The
Hmm.
last time we recorded was just for the list, by the way. Like
Hmm.
there's Monterrey Regional, South Korea playoff, Indonesia qualifier, APAC playoff, Taiwan qualifiers, Seville Special Championship, Johannesburg Special Championship that we just talked about, and we've already begun the Milwaukee Regional Championship with the Thailand qualifier and Indonesia playoff happening today as well.
Yep.
All that to say, been a busy few weeks. So let's
Yeah.
kick it off talking about Monterrey. Again, we sort of like touched on this last time because we
Hmm.
were just through day one when we
Hmm.
recorded 2 weeks ago. And, you know, I guess the big story, if we sort of focus in on the top three, is number one, Dunebug 97 takes out his, you know, big win in what was the biggest regional championship ever in Pokemon
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
You know, it beat out Atlanta just the week before, which is pretty
Hmm.
funny. But Dunebug, I think Dunebug, a lot of people have been feeling like he's a little bit, he's in a cold streak a little bit in that he,
Hmm.
you know, he got, in the past, he got championship after championship after championship, and he just wasn't putting as high results recently. But this sort of, you know, shows that he's still absolutely on top, getting a, you know, again, the biggest win of all time.
Yeah.
With Ed Monterrey, with over
Hmm.
275 other players, which is
Yeah.
crazy. But he took it all out with Alolan Sandslash, Shadow Jumpluff, Shadow
Love.
Drapion, Gastrodon, Azumarill,
Hmm.
and Malamar,
Hmm. Hmm.
which I did see he's actually running again, almost the same team this weekend, although his first match on stream did not go his way. So
Ah, I see.
we'll see if he's, I'm not sure if he's made it to day two or not. I haven't
Okay.
given it too much attention. But Junebug
Hmm.
adds his name to the list of people who have sort of gone to another region and, you know, taken that championship title, sort of
Hmm.
quote unquote stolen an invite, which I know some people are against. I actually like the term stolen. I don't know about you, but it feels like
Says the guy that
it,
went to Johannesburg.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, no one from South Africa played in the championship. What
They
they
didn't
could have defended
know.
it.
They didn't know about it.
Hey, that's not my fault. Huh? That's not on me. But like, yeah,
Kept it
I've thought
quiet,
about this in
told no one.
yeah. But like this is something I've thought about in the past, even pre South Africa, in that like I actually do like the term stolen.
Yeah.
I know it's in some sense contentious. I know
No, 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 no.
I think the officials don't like it because it feels like, you know, they've done something wrong.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
it's not something in my head. It's not like something wrong. It's something that's exciting. It's like it's sort of that sort of sports, esports, like the
Yeah.
storylines that are being built, like it, and you know, like we as Australians, right? We
Mm.
look at Australia and we're like, oh, okay, we're hoping for 13 qualifiers. And if
Correct.
someone like if choose one Brisbane,
Mhm.
like, you know, he would get a qualification instead of someone
Yep.
from Oceania, we
Yep.
would go down to 12. And so it'd be like,
Yes.
oh, you know, he stole an invite,
Yeah.
which I think is a valid way to put it. But yeah, I know that's
Look,
not.
if they come over and they play that well to win a championship, then they deserve it. That's
Yeah,
kind of my thought process.
yeah, I don't think it's wrong. I need
No.
that to like be very clear. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
really
yeah.
do like the term stolen.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
anyway,
like, it's very new for Go. It's very typical for all the other games.
yeah,
VG and TCG, they get internationals all the time.
yeah.
When I was talking to the TCG judges recently, the local ones, they're like, oh, how did Brisbane go? I was like, oh yeah, yeah, went really well. Went to a local, and then but it was like, up against an international player. And they're like, oh, but did it go local? It's like, yeah, yeah, it did go locals way. And they were like, oh, that's great because that, like, in TCG, it's usually a Japanese player that wins, or usually
Mhm.
someone that overseas comes over and plays and does really well. So for them, they were excited that it was for that it wasn't stolen, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But you know, at least here, Dunebug, you know, took out the
Hmm.
win. From second place, TZ Spanks,
Hmm.
who hasn't played a lot in the championship series. He's
Yeah.
well known from he does some of the commentary in
Hmm.
the Latin
Hmm.
American region. You know, really
Yeah.
nice guy.
Yeah.
And
One of
so
the
like,
OGs.
yeah, exactly right. And
Hmm.
has pushed it. He pushed it really far. Again, biggest tournament of like biggest regional of all time. And so, you know, managed to get second with Unova and Stunfisk. You know, sort of putting it on the map there, which I think was pretty cool. And then Nighttime Clasher actually came in third as well. Another one of the
Yay.
foreigners coming in as well, getting really close to that top, but didn't quite make it all the way. But
Where has this guy not been?
Africa.
Hey! Just you wait, Durban, he's coming.
Yeah. Look, we'll see if he ends up making the trip one day. But yeah, look, that's I guess the big story from Monterrey. Again, there wasn't a broadcast, so unfortunately, like there isn't a lot to talk about in terms of like what actually happened in the
Yeah.
tournament. I did hear rumors of the grand finals being shown. Like there was a video, someone was recording over the shoulder, but I actually couldn't
Ah,
find it. So I.
one of those tactics we are quite familiar with.
Yeah, very. But yeah, unfortunately, I mean live. But yeah, I
Mm,
didn't see it. So
yeah.
unfortunately, that's about all we've got to say about Monterrey, which I guess means we can move on to the next. Um,
Yeah.
you actually alluded to this a little bit earlier, but the South
Mm.
Korea playoffs took place as well,
Mhm.
where Sejun Park did sort of land his qualification for Pokemon Go, which I think, well, I spread a little bit of misinfo in the previous podcast.
This guy.
In that it wasn't my fault in the grand scheme of things. I'm just it's a little bit of a broken telephone
Mhm.
because it was rumored that he'd already qualified in the past, but that's not true. He'd made it to the playoffs in the past, but he hadn't qualified. This
Right.
is the first time that he actually qualified for the World
Mm-mm.
Championships in Pokemon Go because he came fourth in this tournament,
Mhm.
meaning that he's now officially qualified for Worlds. In his time for Pokemon Go, for Pokemon VGC, for Pokemon TCG, for Pokemon Unite,
Mhm.
and he technically played Pokken at the
Yeah.
World Championships in an invitational as well. So like
So,
to he's the world champion from many years ago with Pachirisu in Pokemon
mhm.
VGC. So
Yeah.
he's just the undisputed Pokemon GOAT. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Literally the goat.
I know Wolfie Glick gets a lot of highlights because
Mm-mm.
obviously he's the biggest profile Pokemon player ever,
Yeah.
with absolutely massive YouTube channel, yada yada yada. He
Mhm.
is the world champion, but
Mhm.
it's as far as like that on the ground just Pokemon as a
Mm-mm.
franchise, you can't beat Sejun Park. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So it sounds like he's going to compete in Pokemon Go at Worlds as well, which is super cool.
Oh, that would be cool.
So
Mm.
I look forward to seeing him give it a run. Very
Yeah.
very cool. But
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah,
Because with
Shannon.
the South Korean qualifiers, so there were four that the top four qualify for Worlds. So in first place we had Charming Pori,
Mm-hmm.
which played in Melbourne regional last year, and then we've got Charming Poem. Can you follow the pattern here?
Charming is good. I see. I see. Yeah,
Mm-mm-mm.
they're apparently our school friends.
Oh.
Alongside Charming Chinder, who didn't compete this time around. I think
Hmm.
they qualified for Worlds last year. If
Hmm.
I might be a little bit off on that, but I think that's right.
Yeah.
But I think Charming Pori said that Charming Chinder is just a little bit older.
Oh, that's kind of cute.
It's kind of awesome,
Mm-mm.
especially for these guys to like meet in the grand finals of the
Yeah.
South Korean playoffs. Both already
Look,
having qualified as well. It's super cool.
look, if they had merch and it's just said charming on there, I'd so buy it. Just saying.
Well, South Koreans, keep that in mind.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Followed by
Awesome. I don't
awesome.
know. I think it's Awesome ILIHW came in
Ah, I
third
see.
and
Hmm.
also
Hmm.
qualified.
Yeah.
So there's I guess the four qualifiers from South Korea with
Hmm.
Charming
Hmm.
Pori. They swept through the qualifiers and they
Hmm.
swept through
Yep.
the playoffs as well. So
Yep. Stayed in that winners bracket just the entire time. Hmm.
yeah, pretty crazy. And I
Yeah.
guess the only other
Pretty
things to
dominant.
mention from South Korea, one is that there was a Bastidon. It didn't do very well in this tournament, but it was there. Two, one of our favorites, Yetaruna.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, she didn't make it into the top four of this tournament
Hmm.
after sort of placing eighth in the qualifiers. She
Hmm.
still played with a Seed Bomb Morpeko
Hmm.
Swampert combo, but unfortunately, didn't make it all the way this time around.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess third is that there was a Kanto Sand Slash in this tournament, which is
Yeah.
kind of
From
crazy.
PS NX Legend Push. So
Yeah.
that's
It's
pretty
got
cool.
Rock Tomb, so like I
Mm-mm.
get it, but also
Mhm.
it's I think with so much water running around and even like some grass types, I sort of get why it maybe didn't succeed. uh,
I don't even remember
Even
what
ice.
the community day move was for Kanto Sand Slash.
That's actually a really good question.
Yeah, because that's what I
Something
was kind of trying to think. I was like, okay, it's got Rock Tomb, and what else does it have? And then I'm like, wait, it's got a community day move, doesn't it?
was
Because
it?
it was a
Did it get
community
Night
day
Slash? Was that
for Kanto.
its community day move? Yeah, Kanto? Was it? Yeah, it was Night Slash. But
Okay.
I don't think they were running Night Slash. I'm pretty sure they were running Scorching Sands Rock Tomb.
Okay,
Um,
right. Yeah.
and it's got access to stand attack as well. But yeah, it
Mm,
does have Night Slash as that community day attack.
gosh,
But
sand attack.
yeah, kind of awesome. But
Mm-mm.
yeah, that's South Korea. So shout out to the 4 that are sort of joining the World's qualification.
Mhm.
Also, this was April 22nd. This was tweeted out for Indonesia.
Yep.
So we saw Rifki Aditya take out the qualifiers. Now, again,
Mhm.
this is that first stage process. So
Yep.
the winners here don't qualify
Qualifiers.
for Worlds. They qualify
Playoffs.
for the playoffs,
Mhm.
which take place this weekend, today,
Yep.
actually. So
Yep.
by the time you're listening to this, we might have the winner of the Indonesia playoffs. But for
Mhm.
now,
Mhm.
we just know the sort of top 16 that will be competing.
Yes.
Rifki Aditya did take out the win. I've actually got a YouTube video of their 7-0 sweep on my channel. They were running Corviknight, which I
Mhm.
thought was kind of crazy. So
Mhm. Mhm.
I was like, heck yeah, let's show that off.
Mhm.
Um, and we also see Find Panic. I think one of
Mm-mm.
the, if not the most known Indonesian player in the
Mhm.
PvP circuit, coming in top eight
Mhm.
as well. So they'll be
Mhm.
playing in the playoffs today.
Yeah. So
But
that'll
yeah,
be cool. Unfortunately, Rob Drogo didn't quite make it.
yeah,
You
that's
know,
right.
but he did quite well. It was just he unfortunately had his of all things his Bastiodon, the CP he put the HP instead. So then unfortunately he had a game loss and or no, yeah,
No,
I think it was
he
game
opted to not
not bring
be able
it.
to use his Bastiodon.
Yeah. So he ended up with 5 Pokemon instead of 6, and I think that may have been the clincher at the end. But he did really
Yeah.
well leading up to that point.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. He went 5-2, which for
Mm,
most of these tournaments is enough to secure yourself a
mm,
spot, like, in the top 16. But this tournament was crazy. Like, I was scrolling
mm.
through, and there's just like so many people that went 5-2. That's like, what the heck happened here? This is a
Yeah.
weird Swiss tournament, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, he did lose out on tiebreakers. Like,
Hmm.
there's 8 people here that qualified at 5-2, but
Hmm.
he wasn't in the top 8 on tiebreaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Funnily enough, there
Just
are actually,
percentage. Yeah.
yeah, there are actually 2 other people here that did qualify with Bastiodon. So Rob Drogo's here in spirit, but yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
pretty sad to hear him not qualify because I was definitely
Yeah.
rooting for him. But
Mm-mm-mm-mm. And
oh
look,
well,
it's yeah, like you said, maybe his influence got to the other Indonesians, so there is some Basti in there. That's all right. Can
yeah,
represent that today.
yeah. Well, we'll see if Bastiodon can take it all the way to get its
Hmm.
third ever Bastiodon sweep.
Hmm.
Third ever Bastiodon win after Rob Drogo himself in Perth and back in the India playoffs as well.
Yep.
But
Yep.
again,
Yep. Yep.
this is sort of that first stage.
Hmm.
And the third in Asian tournament of 4,
Hmm.
there's
Hmm.
a lot going on here. It was the
Yeah.
APAC playoffs. So
Yes.
again, this was the bit where you do decide who
Hmm.
is attending the World Championships. And we saw Matran Jar taking out the win
Hmm.
with a kind of crazy team with Shadow
Hmm.
Steelix, Tinkerton, and Jellison. So actually, I guess we've officially hit Tinkerton meta time.
Yeah. We definitely have, and the APAC playoffs. If just to recap, APAC it covers Malaysia, covers Singapore, covers Hong Kong, and covers one more. Is it Philippines?
Hang on, read them out again.
Singapore,
It's
Malaysia, Hong Kong, and there was one other one. I think it was.
um Oh, I definitely know this. I actually got stuck on this when I was reading it as well. Oh, wait, I can look at the flags.
Yeah, it's
Hong Kong,
Philippines.
Malaysia.
Yes,
It
yes.
is Philippines. There you go.
Yeah,
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 yeah, I
yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
see it in the top right.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
My bad.
So, and only top two, is that correct?
Yeah,
Go
top
to
2 qualify for
Worlds,
Worlds.
which
So,
is brutal when you think about it.
yeah.
4 countries and then two spots.
Yeah. And I mean, this is how Yakai qualified for the World Championships last year as well.
Hmm.
So he didn't compete this time, but that's sort of
Hmm.
crazy that,
Yeah.
the same tournament that birthed a world champion is just like, you get two.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so Hong Kong unfortunately didn't get a representative out of this tournament.
Mm.
It will just have to be Yakai. So
Yeah, and there were
um,
so many of them uh,
yeah,
in this
yeah,
playoff. The good chunk of Hong Kong players, but top player went to Metraja, which is Malaysian, and second going to Walker 0623, which is Singaporean. So yeah, a bit of a Southeast Asian representation, and
yeah.
yeah, again, really cool team like the Shadow Steelix. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, I did contact Met Ranjar to see if he wanted, if I could make a video from his run. He said
Hmm.
he shot the footage off to Rise to occasion. I don't know if Rise
Hmm.
has put the video out, but I thought
Hmm.
it was sort of fitting in that sense because, like Rise is the guy that won a tournament with Steelix in the Vancouver Regional Championships as well. Now that was a bit different because it was that sort of Vancouver halfway meta, so
Mhm,
it's
mhm,
a little bit, it's not quite the same as this one where it's actually going into the Tinkerton meta.
mhm,
I'm
mhm.
sort of looking at Rise's channel. I don't see it there, so maybe it's still, I don't know,
In
to
the
come
works.
out.
Yeah,
So maybe stay tuned for that.
unless he's got
But
a second channel.
yeah, that's true. It could be like a
Mhm,
home slice Henry situation. I think
mhm,
Rise tends to put a lot of show six content on his main channel, so I'm not aware of a
mhm,
second channel, but
mhm.
yeah, I look forward to seeing the video. I really wanted to see the battles, which is the
Yeah,
main reason why I messaged him because I was like, oh, that's a
mhm.
cool team, which is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
number one motivating factor. But we'll
Mhm.
see. We'll see. And
Yeah,
Walker qualified with Corviknight as well, which is
yeah.
always pretty cool. But
He went with the
I
Shadow
guess now that we're
Primate.
sort of oh, true, Shadow Primate actually getting the. I guess it's the
Mhm.
second place Mon.
Oh, we'll never hear the end of it.
We'll see.
Mhm,
Now, because we are now in the Tinkerton meta, we can. I think this one's a little bit more unusual than
mhm,
something like Sevilla in
mhm,
the metas. Look, as we are well aware, the Asian meta is a little bit crazy compared to a lot of the rest of the world.
hmm,
It tends to have sort of spice picks that really pop up and pop through.
mhm,
There's not that much of it in this tournament now that I'm really looking at it, which is a little interesting. There is a
mhm.
Bastidon in fourth place,
There is
so I
almost,
guess there's that.
almost.
I'm still cheering. Look, we're Aussies, right? We're cheering for Bastidon every time.
We are, we are.
That's the rules. That's part of the
I
citizenship
just,
test.
I just like that APAC actually used quite a bit of Blastoise.
Yeah,
There's
that's true.
there's a couple of them in there, so I was like, oh, cool. They're chosen water type.
Yeah, I think there's actually quite a variety in waters as well. Met
Mm,
Ranjar actually ran the Quagsire, which I actually
mm,
think is a really heads up play in that you also get that coverage into like a really good coverage into Tinkerton.
mm,
But you've also got play into like I can't remember the move set. I remember checking. I think it's Aquatail Mud Bomb.
mm,
Um, but I checked this the weekend off, so it's a
mm.
it's a little bit time removed at this point.
Yep.
But I think it's really I'm sort of looking at all the other Pokemon that were running around. You've got great coverage into like the Drapions as well, which is one of the most important things that I think
Mm,
you really need to cover. You've
mm,
got play into Pokemon like the ground types. You've got play into the Clodsire, the Diggersby,
mm,
the Kanto Marowak that I don't really see a lot of here, but it's definitely
mm.
making a showing at the moment. And it was
Yep.
something that I was worried about going into Johannesburg.
Mm, mm.
Um, and you've just got neutral play into anything if you've got shields.
Yeah. Look, I feel like the Mud Boys are making a comeback. Like the Swampert, the Quagsires. Next thing you know, be a Whiscash there.
Wait, but actually, hold.
It's got Blizzard.
Now, I mean, that's actually something we saw from of last year, Asia. We saw
Mm,
Vincent, who I think we'll actually, hear about just in a second. But last year, I think Vincent ran Blizzard Scold, Blizzard Scold Whiscash, I want to say,
mm.
and came second in the Taiwan playoffs. So he qualified for Worlds with that Blizzard Whiscash. So
Look,
I mean, it's not crazy. It's not crazy, but I think you've sort of nailed it in that we are heading a little bit more into a steel meta in the existence
mm,
of Tinkerton, which is going
mm,
to not only drag in a little bit more ground in the form of like, your Diggersbys and stuff, but I think it's going
mm,
to bring in your Mud Boys that can
mm,
handle the Tinkerton and the other ground types. So
mm.
that's definitely something that I would expect in the immediate future.
Yeah. When I thought the Tinkerton meta was coming through, I thought, okay, there's going to be more rise in Mud Boys, but I was kind of thinking that maybe there'll be like some fire types.
Mm.
But I suppose I haven't really seen. Well, Talonflame was already in the mix, but besides that, I was kind of hoping there'll be some Typhlosions kind of popping around, but nothing of yet.
Yeah, and look, Talonflame definitely seems like the big winner in that sense.
Mm.
Matt Ranjar ran it and won with it. It came
Mm.
third here as well. There's no other ones in the top 16. I think it's running around a fair bit this weekend, for sure. It's
Mm.
definitely been popping up in a few of these other tournaments as that sort
Mm.
of big Tinkerton counter.
Mm.
But you're right. As I was actually building teams for Johannesburg, I was really eyeing up Typhlosion because it was sort of hot off of like Elgavismo and Dray Flames doing quite well with it in the US.
Mm.
And it's, as has been well established, is one of my favorite Pokemon to be running in PvP. I just
Mm.
really like it. And its ability to really power through teams if you give it a little bit of energy.
Mm.
And it's just, it kind of still looks good, if I'm being honest with you. I think
Yeah.
that Typhlosion still has a fair bit of play. There's a lot of
Mm.
water types running around where Thunder Punch is going to be quite handy, and you've got the
Mm.
fire coverage for the steals and, anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be shocked if we see Typhlosion have some success
Mm.
in the sort of near future, but there hasn't been a whole lot yet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was kind of like, okay, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, that's it for APAC. I think we'll move on to Taiwan.
Yeah. So the final Asian tournament we'll be talking about today, because there are
Mm.
so many, was the Taiwan regional qualifier.
Mm.
Again, this is a stage oneer. Maybe we should have broken them up into stage one, stage two, rather than sort of going like timeline based. But
We'll do
whatever.
it next time.
Yeah, you're here now. Yeah, we will have to do it next time because there are still so many to go. It is crazy how bunched up the Asian tournaments are. But hey,
Oh,
at least they get to play, right? So
yeah.
Vincent, Vincent 070400, as mentioned before, as the Whiscash man from last year, he
Mm-hmm.
won the qualifier in its entirety,
Yay.
running
Mm-hmm.
again. Actually, I think this tournament is the standout, is the weirdest tournament at the moment in this Tinkerton meta
Mm-hmm.
because Tinkerton isn't even in the top 12 usage graphic, like
No.
in Top Cut. It's
No.
crazy.
No.
So Vincent won with an Azumarill, Shadow Kanto Marowak, Alolan Sandslash, Shadow Drapion, Credilli, and Golisopod.
Mm-hmm.
And there isn't a Tinkerton in the top 8. There's
Nope.
like a few of them. I think I only see 2 in the
Yep.
top 16, but
Correct.
0 in the top 8, which is crazy. Like there's so many Pokemon here that are literally like only popping up to counter that Tinkerton.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems crazy to me that it just hasn't seen any success here at all. There's a Galarian Corsola placing higher
Yeah.
than Tinkerton.
Yep. I'm pretty sure there's two. But yeah, I think when we talked about the Might and Mastery season, we were talking about how Galarian Corsola was probably on the way down, and now it's back in Taiwan.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to one of the someone in the top 8 though, bringing in an Altaria.
Yeah.
DBK 1030. I'm just like, oh, that's a Pokemon I haven't seen in a while. Unless you're in the
Yeah.
low ranks of GBL like I am, but
Yeah.
otherwise, no, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I brought Altaria to LAIC in November, and I think
Yeah.
it's one of those Pokemon where it's like Dragon is always a little bit good. Like unless
Mm.
you're in a heavy Ice type meta, Dragon is always going to have some play. Like we saw Valiant Vish succeed with Gudra at the Brisbane Regional Championship. I was,
Mm.
the team that I built with Mikey Morgs had Gudra on it for Johannesburg,
Mm-hmm.
and in practice, it was doing really well for me on teams without Tinkerton. And I guess if you're in the Taiwan regional qualifier, maybe that works out for you really well because there's not a lot of
True.
Tinkerton. So,
Not a lot of
it's a bit of
Tinkerton.
a, read the meta, I guess. It wouldn't have
Yeah.
worked very well in Johannesburg because 2 of the other 3 teams did have Tinkerton. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
would have been a little unfortunate. But yeah, kind of interesting. And we even saw Morpeko come in third
Mm.
in this particular regional qualifier with
Mm-hmm.
7784578835790 taking third place.
Is that his
Um,
friend code?
Hang on, how long are friend codes? Is that possible? 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1. I don't know. Someone type it in, find out, let us know. But Yeah, again, this is that first stage, so we'll see how things go.
Mm-mm.
Gamebird Taiwan did come in second as well. I think
Mm-hmm.
actually they won last year's
Mm.
Taiwan playoffs. So I think
Yep.
that
Yep.
number 1 and 2 from last year have come number 2 and 1. So giving
Yep.
me a Perth 2022, 2023 vibes a little bit with Averick and Rob Drogo.
Yeah. But these are the qualifiers, so yeah, we've got to wait for the playoffs and then see how they go. When is the Taiwan? Oh, it's still a while away actually.
Um,
It's another
yeah. So
week and
I've
bit.
got it in, I've got them all in my calendar, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's next weekend actually. It's
Yep. Yep. Yep.
next Saturday.
Gosh.
So
Yeah.
we'll
We'll see if there's more
we'll see.
Tinkerton then.
Yeah. I think actually next weekend might be the last weekend of the Asian Championship Series. Actually, that might not be true because I know Thailand did
Get delayed.
they got delayed.
Mm-hmm.
I've got in my calendar that they sort of finish off next weekend
Yep.
after playing this weekend, and I
Yep.
think I've updated that, but I'm not 100% confident.
Yep.
So I think
And
it all ends next weekend though.
and Japan have their finals in
Oh,
June.
yeah. Or
Yep.
yeah, I sort of put Japan in a different bucket because they get very
Mm.
special treatment with the PJCS.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
as far as the sort of online qualifiers of it all, that
Correct.
looks like it's ending up next weekend. So
Mm-hmm.
things will
Mm-hmm.
get a little bit quieter as far as the sort of constant tournament from
Mm-mm-mm.
there. Which I guess it must because we've only got 1 month left of tournaments. To be
Yeah.
fair, like we're
Yeah. It's May.
yeah,
That's
it's
pretty
May.
much it.
This is the last month of locals. NAIC is next weekend, and I guess perhaps PJCS as well, but or PCGAS, Pokemon Championship Series
NAIC
Japan.
NAIC is not until end of the month, right?
It's mid June, like
Mid-June. Oh,
13,
June,
14,
June, June,
15.
June. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in June. I think there is a Bologna hangover into June again, just like there was last season. But is what it is. I guess Bologna just likes to be like that.
Look, every time I
um,
look at Bologna, I think of bologna. Then I just keep laughing in my head. So it's like, it's a funny word.
Wait until we hear about Turkey. But look, the only other tournament we haven't talked about
Hmm.
quite yet is the one that just happened alongside the Johannesburg Special Championship, which was Sevilla,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
in some sense we
Ha-
should have talked about before Johannesburg, but we've
yeah.
I guess we had other reasons to talk about Jayberg
Yeah.
first.
Sevilla had more people than Johannesburg.
It had a few more. It had a couple more. Like
A
not.
couple more. Not a
I
heap
mean, they had a
more.
lot. They had a lot
Yeah.
more no shows than we had people. So,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
put
yeah,
it that way.
yeah.
That was a
Well, there was the
certainly a
Spanish Cup
controversial part.
that happened in Spain. So a lot of people, I think, registered for the event and then were like, "Oh, the Spanish Cup is on. I'm actually gonna
Yeah,
head over there
it was
instead."
actually almost a 50% no-show rate, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
120 people registered, and originally they didn't hit the 65 kicker.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was some dodgy shenanigans that took place so that it did hit the 65 kicker.
Uh,
I don't know. I don't know what happened. All I
mm-hmm.
know is that originally everyone was told, like, sorry guys, we missed it. And then they were like, okay, it's 65 now. So
Hmm.
it sounds suspicious to me. But hey,
Mm.
it works in everyone's benefit. So like,
Yeah,
it's a better scenario for it to
yeah,
hit that kicker than not, rather than a supposedly 120 person tournament only giving top 16 points. But
yeah.
yeah, so kind of a
Mm-hmm.
rough on that front. It's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
pretty dodge.
Yep.
But regardless, the tournament went ahead. There were a lot of people, and obviously, by the time you sort of get towards the end of the bracket, it's still just top of the top, all
Mm-hmm.
fighting it out in Sevilla. So this was, I guess, the first large-scale broadcasted tournament that did have Tinkerton. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely all eyes on this broadcast. Very Spanish Portugal. What's it's the Iberian Peninsula? Is that the term?
Oh, is this where the tourists are?
Yeah, yeah.
I see. I see. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that yeah, that's what it's called. So,
Mm-hmm.
we saw it's very familiar faces jumping into the top 16. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
darting my eyes around, and you see Paul Asher, you see Jocks, you
Mm-hmm.
see Quif G, who will never figure out how to pronounce.
Queefei? Queefei.
Yeah, that seems much closer than what I was saying.
See
But
Wolfpack, Pablo Dinas, we see Powder Man,
yeah, but
Digo. Mm-hmm.
we got a brand new champion emerging in HK Assassin 16, who they're running a team that it wasn't the sort of team that I was expecting. to do well. So like, again, this is actually like, we see the final top 16 now in sort of how they
Yeah.
placed, but this is the exact top 16 sort of jumbled up that I was looking at going into Johannesburg, sort of like
Mm.
preparing how to play against all of these teams to,
Yeah. Yeah.
give me some early practice. And so like HK Assassin's team is one that I was like, surely not, right? Like, surely I'm not seeing that this weekend. It had Tinkerton,
Mm-hmm.
Lapras, Unova Stunfisk,
Mm-hmm.
Superior, Talonflame, and Shadow Swampert,
Yeah.
which you've got sort of that classic Firewater Grass. You've got,
Mm-hmm.
Double Ground in there. You've got Tinkerton. You've got the bulk of Lapras,
Mm-hmm.
sort of replacing the Azumarill. And I think one of the big stories out of this tournament is that Azumarill usage is actually starting to drop. It's, I mean, shock horror.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
the fall has begun. It's not there yet, but it's begun.
Yeah. Well, in the top 8, there was only one Azumarill.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I think it had bigger day 1 usage than day 2 usage. I think the field started
Mm-mm-mm.
to thin, and
Yeah.
something that we definitely saw is that Tinkerton usage jumped dramatically from day
Mm.
1 usage to day 2 usage,
Yeah.
meaning that sort of the people that were running Tinkerton are the
Mm.
people that were succeeding.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Tinkerton. It was the number 1 day 2 usage Pokemon by
Mm.
massive margins. And spoiler alert, the exact same thing has happened this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to say
Yeah.
the least. But
I
hey,
still, I
running
still no
double
made one.
ground, yeah. I mean, I obviously built one for Johannesburg, but
Yeah.
it
It's all right.
is.
I'll do some trades later.
Yeah, yeah,
Still collecting them.
yeah, for sure. You've got time, I think, before you compete again. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think double ground strategy makes sense. They've actually brought like a super team to counter Tinkerton in that they've
Mm-hmm.
got Swampert and Unova Stunfisk, and then they
Yes.
also have Talonflame.
Yes.
And Superior, it's not a great matchup, but it's actually not terrible into
No,
Tinkerton. Um,
it's not. It does. It'll be a
and
soft loss.
Lapras, also not a bad matchup into Tinkerton either. So you've got an entire team that does fine into Tinkerton. And
Mm-hmm.
for a Pokemon that was so big in top 16, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, and it did incredibly well. And to go against someone like Padoman, you know, EUIC previous champion. So that's no easy feat. Going into and yeah, I think HK Assassin kind of stayed in that winners bracket until basically grand finals to do, then a reset, and then to win it back, which is incredible again. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see a new winner in Europe. Like no, like if Spider-Man won again, he won again. But it's pretty cool to see like HK Assassin 16 get up there, and he's a lovely dude. So I'm very 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 happy for him.
Yeah, I think Europe is the region that is sort of showing the most variety in their champions. Not only in
Mm-hmm.
the sense of like, like obviously Elam won 2 regionals this season,
Mm-hmm.
and that's only like double up, I think.
Yeah.
But what NA has seen is a lot of repeat champions like from the past. So
Yeah.
people like Rise to Occasion that
Mm-hmm.
famously has won a regional in every single season.
Yeah.
And it's like we're seeing a lot of like Elite won a regional championship.
Mm-hmm.
It's all of these people that have already won in the past. And so it's sort of these
Yeah.
repeat champions that are like, oh, yeah, I would expect him to win. Like, sure.
Yeah.
But
Mm-mm-mm.
Europe this season has shown so many new champions that I think is
Mm.
really cool. And so I really like that HK Assassin sort of jumps up to be one of them.
Yeah.
Padaman almost got him, to be fair. Like in the grand finals, like, he got the
Mm.
reset. He started to push. It almost felt like, I don't know if dominant's the right word, but it was I was kind of like, I don't know if this guy can do it. I think this is Padaman's to win, but no, HK
Yeah.
Assassin came back.
The
You know,
reset really, he locked in for that, like after the bracket reset, which is pretty cool to see. Because the actual grand finals itself, I was like, oh, this that was very. It was like 3-0 or something. It was just like very very clean. So I was like, oof,
yeah,
okay, this is
I
this
think
is good.
well, Padaman's run a very different team as well. They actually ran triple water
Mm,
in Jellicent, Gastrodon, and Golisopod.
mm-hmm,
They've both got the Tinkerton and they've both got the Talonflame.
mm-hmm,
Something that came out of this weekend as well, like Talonflame, it's in on both of the top 2 teams. It's on none
mm-hmm.
of the other top 16.
Yep.
But I guess the piece of tech that has come out of Sevilla is that Flame Charge is back. Flame Charge
Ah.
Talonflame, sort of, it boosts up your incinerates. It gives
Mhm.
you a better time up against that, up against the Tinkaton,
Uh-huh.
but it also sort of gives you can play into Pokemon that resists flying type moves. So,
Mhm.
HK Assassins, even Stunfisk, for example, it
Mhm.
just walls off Brave Bird, Brave Bird Fly, Talonflame,
Mhm.
and so Flame
Yep.
Charge actually sort of puts you back in the running a little bit, which
Mm-mm-mm.
is it makes sense, and I think that it's now going to be a decision between Fly and Brave Bird as opposed to whether you bring Flame Charge or not. Um,
Mm-mm.
Especially and it gives you nice coverage into a lot of other Pokemon neutrally, but
Yeah.
I think like you could still run Fly Brave Bird. I just wouldn't. That's it's not the way I'd go personally.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
hey, you never know.
Yeah. Time to
The
make both.
Yeah, I guess so. There were
Mhm.
other few some choice Pokemon that popped up in the top 16 as well.
Mhm.
We see Morpeko again showing up in the top 8. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's not even necessarily the bridesmaid yet because I don't think it's hit
Mm-mm.
second, but it's been
Mhm.
knocking around a little bit. I think it's
Yep.
without big major changes, I think
Mhm.
it's only a matter of time before Morpeko does get a win.
Yep.
But we also saw a Grumpig in the top 16. We saw
Yeah,
a
the Grumpig.
Melmetal in the top 16. Um,
Melmetal. A Dusclops.
Yeah, Dusclops is popping around. I've been
Mm-mm.
seeing Dusclops this weekend as well.
Mhm.
It's an making appearance, and a Galarian Corsola in the top 16 as well. Which as you said
Mm-mm.
before, like I think we were pretty ready to say like Galarian Corsola, we know you're a ghost type, but you are dead, man. Like you are. But
Well,
hey, maybe sticking true to its typing. It's a ghost re-risen. So
there we go. Thank you, global warming.
maybe
um, maybe.
thanks.
Another note is that in the APAC playoffs, we didn't have someone from Hong Kong win. However, HK
Ah,
Assassin does have the dual type of Hong Kong and Wales, so having both flags there. So there was someone from Hong Kong. There we go.
true. So yeah, I guess HK Assassin joins Yakai in the Hong Kong represent. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
We take that
quick
as an
shout out.
APAC win.
Yeah, we're counting it, right? We're
Yeah,
counting it.
yeah. We stole it from the Europeans.
We.
It's APAC. We.
Yep. Sure, we'll take it. But yeah, look, that's Sevilla again. We're sort of
Mhm.
pushing through a little bit, but
Mhm.
was there anything else you wanted to say about the Sevilla Special
No,
Championship?
no, it's just Tinkertongue meta now, and Milwaukee will be really interesting once it wraps up. Tonight, tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
did see like after Sevilla because it was such a. There's only one word that's coming to mind, and it's not one I want to say. Such a mess. um, with respect to the no shows and such, the amount of people
Ah,
registering and then not appearing.
ah.
It I've seen the European organizers now start to push out like, hey, if you're not coming, can you like unregister, please?
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Thank you.
Yep.
So we'll see how that goes for future European Special
Because
Championships.
what's next? Is it Utrecht? I can't remember.
Yeah, there's Utrecht and Bologna are the last two European
Yeah,
regionals.
yeah. I think it was for
Which one's
Utrecht. I've seen a lot of retweets of like, if you're not coming, please unregister.
They are both special championships as well. So,
Mm-mm.
interestingly, we actually had like a straight run of like, there've been 9 tournaments in Europe.
Mhm.
The first 6 were all regionals. The last
Mhm.
3 are all special championships. So,
Yep.
no more money on the line. You don't get prize money at these things.
Nope.
It's like, all right, you're done. Piggy bank,
Yeah.
empty. Yeah,
Yep.
hopefully that does
I
happen.
was gonna
People that
say,
aren't
you know how
going.
that feels.
If there was prize money at Johannesburg, there would definitely be more people rocking up. Let's
Mm,
put it that way.
yeah, yeah.
Um, the fact that all you get is high five and some points is not as tempting as it might be otherwise. But hey, I still think it's cool. Could you imagine if I got given thousands of dollars for that performance? I mean, come on. there's a
I would
there's a
not.
line somewhere where it gets absurd. That's a
I would
absolute
not hear the end of
waste of
it.
money. Oh no, not at all. I mean, it would have been nice to pay for my flights, but hey,
Yeah,
let's be realistic, huh? But yeah,
yeah.
we'll see if that does happen. I will, I guess, also registration for Melbourne is closing up as well.
It
There's only
is
10 slots remaining
10
for
slots.
Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll see if I need to jump on one of those 10
Yep, yep,
to try and get that world's
yep,
qualification, but we'll see.
yep. We'll see if I need to
Um,
jump in to help you with numbers.
yeah, we'll find out. And I guess the other shout out being that this weekend, on
Mm.
top of Milwaukee, which we are sort of partway through at the moment,
Mhm.
we do have that Thailand qualifier and the Indonesia playoffs as well. So we will get a
Yay.
few more worlds qualified players this weekend, one from
Mhm.
Milwaukee and two from Indonesia.
Mhm.
And then we'll see how Melbourne goes in 2 weeks' time, or less than 2 weeks' time.
Gosh.
It's
Yeah. So
kind of
this might be
crazy.
the last podcast till post Melbourne, I imagine.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah.
So I guess good luck to anyone that is competing in the Melbourne
Mhm.
Regional Championships. Hopefully, we'll
Mhm.
see you there. Well, I guess hopefully
See
we'll
you on
be
the
in suits,
floor.
but also if we're not in suits, see you there anyway. um, and
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's that. We do have a few YouTube comments as well
Okay.
from the previous episode, so
Mhm. Mhm.
we can take a quick look at that one. And while I load it up, we know who one of our comments is going to be from. Quickly say shout out Aunt Emma. Thank you for
Thanks,
supporting the
Anima.
podcast on Patreon. But she does say,
Yeah.
I fully respect making Dad draw the team sheet in penance for forgetting to draw the team sheets. Excellent work in the drawings, though. Yeah, that was from Nautical,
Naughty
whose
dad.
dad left the team sheets at home. So, he did have
Mhm.
to draw up the team sheets. Then she says, yay, big congrats to Debbie and the Pebbles. So, thank you, Aunt Emma, because
Yay.
regionals for Unite is also next weekend. So,
It is.
we'll see how that goes.
Whoa, let's go to
We'll see.
Worlds.
Yay. We're going to be
Yay.
number one. Yeah. Easy, easy.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
We'll just get advice from our coach, Zoinks
Yep.
again.
Thanks, Zoinks.
We've also got a comment from Hawk Aussie. Get in first, but before I watch the episode, currently on a bus as I type this, the episode we rated AAA for quality. You did
Okay.
mention Say June. I was wondering whether you had mentioned him in the Korean section. I mean, we're not going
Mhm.
to drop him, right? As long as we know he was there, we were going to chat.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it wasn't Wade mentioning the Unite idea, as he supported the thought that I was thinking for laughs. I feel like we brought it up a long time ago. I think the origin story is now properly lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely like in the back thoughts for quite a while back. But
Yeah.
there we go. Now it's watched
Mhm.
6 hours later while watching. So thanks, Hawkozzy. And final comment from the previous episode.
Mhm.
Charming LNDS Debbie Pebble legend push is going to be unstoppable. This is coming from T. Westell. So we were
Ah,
talking about
interesting.
yeah,
If I can fit it
I'm back
all
of my
those
mind.
characters, great.
I'm still in the back of my head. Like, man, I could just add LNDS to my name, cut out a couple of E's. Still seems like a crazy idea. Tempting. But no shout out for the big man Blastoise on Dialap's team. That's true. We didn't mention that, but I guess you mentioned Blastoise this week. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not
Mhm.
as like I know it's sort of crazy, but I don't see Blastoise as like that insane of a pick. I guess.
I
I know
I
it's
played
not like
around with
being.
it. It's definitely, yeah, it's an interesting pick. I think when you play, if you know it enough, it's quite it's quite a good one because you get, especially if it's Shadow, with the Hydro Cannons, it's just going to be like, Shadow Hydro Cannon is always good. But Skull Bash is really interesting because I'm just like, it takes longer to get there, yes. However, it does so much damage. And then you get the defense boost. And I'm just like, wow.
Yeah. Did you try
Mhm.
out Ice Beam at all?
I did not.
Hmm. I think it's another one that's like Lapras, and that there's the sort of debate between the two
Yeah,
about which one
yeah.
is actually the superior
Mhm.
go. But yeah, I think Blastoise is one that you do need to build your team of three around it a little bit. In that
Mm.
you do sort of want to give it an advantage. I think if you just run
Yeah,
at people head to head with Blastoise, it doesn't do as well. You sort
yeah,
of
yeah.
need something else to take a bit of a sacrifice. Some bulk with a Lapras or an Azumarill or something. But
Yeah, I did get some
um,
advice from Jai about it, and he basically said, yeah, I basically give it any type of advantage I can that works out short if I
mhm.
see a Ferrothorn.
Yeah,
I
that
was like,
checks out.
right.
Look, at least in the championship series, we're not seeing a lot of Ferrothorn running around. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's fine, to say the
yeah,
least.
yeah.
Um,
GBL,
but
who knows?
Yeah, that's true. And Tristan finishes, a big difference between Body Slam Sork and the things on the ban list is that Body Slam on Sork is available via regular charge TM, whereas the things on the ban list can't even be obtained by elite TM, that's true. I feel like that's more because it hasn't been like flagged to Niantic. Like, I feel like if TPCI/Niantic were like aware of this thing, they'd have to deal with it. Like, there's no shot that Big Pikachu is happy for anyone and their mother putting like Body Slam onto Sorks and getting away with it on like the second it becomes like competitively viable, I think it is going to be all hands on deck. We need to ban this thing straight away. Like, there's just no they don't want these illegal movesets on Pokemon, right?
No.
So but
yeah, it's just because it's so irrelevant at this moment that it's like yeah.
I think that's the only reason. Like, it is the case of like I've seen people run it in the past, not intentionally. Like, you know those teams that when you go to Dracoviz and you scroll to the very end, you see the people that have just like registered teams but had no intention of like playing or whatever. There've been Sork showing up in a lot of those teams because it's a Pokemon that you can catch like around the 1300-1400 mark. So no one can be the first person to bring it. Let's just say there's been a lot of banned Pokemon that have come to regionals as a result of that. But hey, anyway, if you want to leave a comment about this episode, anything that we talked about today, because it was a lot, from Johannesburg through to everything that wasn't Johannesburg. Leave a comment below. We'll get to it next time, which might be after Melbourne Regional Championships. We'll see. And I guess any send-offs from you, Deborah?
Join Steve's Patreon so he can get a bit of funding back on his flights, because he flew all the way to Johannesburg for a bit.
It was a good bit. To be fair, I think it's a pretty good bit.
Maybe I'll do a GoFundMe. Steve didn't get prize money, so we just need 2,000 USD here.
Please don't. That would be atrociously bad.
That'd be funny.
That would be so bad. But I mean, more than that, I just like to be able to go and watch the YouTube video that I uploaded on the Johannesburg run, because I like the video. I like the video.
It's a good video. So, it's a good video.
Check out the run. It's over there. It's the last video I uploaded.
Yeah, there's only 4 games.
Three rounds, 3 matches.
Yeah.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 battles, literally.
7 battles. It's not that long.
It's not a long watch, but I think it's a good video. So give it a check out. And also, while you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the Good Day Battlers podcast, even if you don't listen to it over there, because we want to get that number to 100. And follow the socials on all the other places if you're so inclined. But I think that is about it. So thanks for watching. See you in Melbourne, whether we're competing or not. But
we will see you
either way, looking forward to seeing you over there. So,
Melbourne in May. All right, bye.
Melbourne in May. Bye.